Hello and welcome to Called Bank Sports. The Utah Jazz dropped a close game tonight, losing to the Golden State Warriors by a final score of 94-92 in a game where basically I have zero substantial real takeaways from, at least in regards to how the Jazz are going to end up faring against the Golden State Warriors in the future. And it's frankly just based on the fact that we didn't get to watch the teams play each other. The Utah Jazz are still missing Donovan Mitchell in concussion protocol. Hassan Whiteside is out of health and safety protocol, but is currently getting back in shape. And then you have Golden State, who didn't have Draymond Green, didn't have Klay Thompson, and we're going to get into some player performances, like Steph Curry, who basically didn't play tonight. I mean, he had his worst three-point shooting game in his career. Prior to this, he had a game where he went 1 for 12 and some games where he went 1 for 11. But tonight, let me just make sure I have this right, so I'm not feeding you false information. He went 1 for 13 from three, 5 for 20 from the field. He's had some games where he's only made 4 shots with around 20. So this may have not been his worst shooting night in his career, but this was absolutely his worst three-point shooting night in his career. So credit to the Jazz defense for that. But again, he's been playing a lot of minutes. I believe he's played 40 minutes in the last couple games, 35 tonight. So really, there's a lot more external factors that led to that. So when the Jazz, lose this game where Draymond Green isn't playing, Klay Thompson isn't playing, Steph Curry has an absolutely horrendous night, that really hurts. Like, as a Jazz fan, I want to see the Jazz win this game, especially where they're coming off so many days rest since they've played Detroit. But frankly, they looked tired tonight, which I'm not sure. I doubt they've been practicing heavily. I do know there has been some concern in the Quinn Snyder era of maybe running players a bit too hard during stretches like this. But I think more so it's just players coming back from COVID like Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, and the list goes on. The fact that all of these players have had to pick up the slack when players haven't been in the game. I mean, Hassan Whiteside hasn't played for a few games for a decent amount of time. So you have Rudy Gobert picking up slack. But prior to that, Rudy Gobert wasn't playing. So you had other players picking up slack for him, players picking up slack for Joe. And frankly, COVID has just currently decimated the Jazz, which is definitely a negative. But it is nice to kind of have something you can blame for losing 7 of the last 9, I think. And we're going to get into Phoenix, and I'm going to talk a bit about that game for tomorrow. But I feel pretty confident penciling in that the Jazz are going to lose 8 of their next 10. So this is a rough spot for the Jazz. That being said, tonight they're missing their best player, at least on the offensive end. From just a scoring perspective, not having Donovan tonight is rough, especially against a team like the Warriors that have such a good defense and are able to typically have pretty good offensive nights. Like, the game was looking like a pretty normal NBA game until the fourth quarter came around and the Jazz only scored 17 and the Warriors only scored 11. But overall, it was a rough game for Utah, with O'Neal having a poor night. I heard on the radio broadcast that there's some thoughts that he might be hurt. Nothing official from the Jazz, but just seemed off in their eyes. And they're definitely a lot more qualified to say that than I am. But he was -9. Bogdanovich, even though he led the Jazz in scoring, was -10. Gobert, -5. Mike Conley, +6. He only played 29 minutes. So not a lot. I maybe would have liked to see some more time from him, especially with what I'm going to say about the Suns game tomorrow. I think he had a pretty good night, and maybe if he's on the court a bit longer, the Jazz win. But he did turn the ball over late, costing the Jazz a scoring opportunity there. So definitely not a flawless game from him, but an all right game from Mike. And then -3 for Joe Ingles. The bench had an all right night with Pascal +3, Rudy Gay +12. Clarkson had a really bad night offensively, and the Jazz needed more from him to win, but he was +3. And then credit to Trent Forrest for playing hard, but he was at -8, 5 of 6 from the line, which is awesome. Took some shots, 50%, missed his only 3, but all right game overall. Like, we definitely needed more, especially when it comes to 3-point shots, where the Jazz, I believe, shot, what did they shoot? They shot 11 of 35 for 31.4%, compared to 13 of 42 for the Warriors. And really what kept the Jazz in this game is the fact that based on fouls, Warriors fouled the Jazz 6 more times, and the Jazz got a total of 13 more free throws. So 19 of 23 is pretty good there. Obviously, if you make all of those, you win, but 80+% is what you can expect on any given night. And Jazz completely out-rebounded Golden State, 51-40. Crazy. 7 more offensive rebounds than the Warriors. But here's the thing that is disappointing to me, and mainly disappointing just because if the Jazz do a bit better in this category, they win. Like, this is the main category I look at that cost the Jazz a victory here. But again, I'm not taking any long-term takeaways from this. The Jazz played hard tonight, lots of guts, and they put it out there. Not good enough, but what happened is the Utah Jazz turned over the ball 12 times, which is relatively good for them. Like, that's a stat. Happy with 12 turnovers from the Jazz. But they allowed 20 points off of turnovers and only got 10 points off of turnovers. So not being able to get back in transition, and not being able to push the ball in transition really went in the favor of the Warriors tonight. And they had over 20% of their points off of turnovers tonight, which is way too many, no matter what the scenario is. So Jazz definitely need to improve. They had a chance to win at the end. Bojan got up a pretty good shot, looked good, and O'Neal was able to get a tip follow to try to tie it. So shot to win, shot to tie, both of those didn't go in, and it bites, but it's the NBA. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. But here, just to end it out, are my thoughts on the Suns tomorrow. First of all, I think the Jazz are going to lose. You have Bojan, who there's some concern that he maybe hyperextended his leg. I think they've listed it as just a bad bruise, or a contusion. I can't remember what it was exactly. But we'll see how he's doing tomorrow and if he's going to be sore and be able to play to the best of his ability. Rudy Gobert, I believe, had a calf injury towards the end of the game and never came back in. Again, maybe he can play tomorrow. Donovan Mitchell, it's been announced that he's not playing tomorrow. You have Mike Conley, who typically doesn't play back-to-backs, only played 29 minutes tonight, so he would be more rested going into the game tomorrow. You have Royce, who nothing from the team, but might be a bit off. And based on all of this, I would do what the Jazz did against the Toronto Raptors and throw the game tomorrow. I would bench everyone in Phoenix. It really stinks, but we're not going to get as Jazz fans, we're not going to be able to take away a lot from that game because they are already at least missing Donovan and Whiteside. Maybe not Whiteside, but they're at least missing Donovan. But looking at the injuries, looking at the fact that you're playing Phoenix again on Wednesday at home, and then you're playing the Grizzlies. Excuse me, apologies there. I don't think there's a lot from going out and running your players into the ground tomorrow. Give the young guys a shot. Give some of the guys on 10-day contracts a chance to earn their money, and just call it. We'll be doing a post game, so please join us for post game after tomorrow. I hope the game ends up being more eventful than I think it is, and then I think it will be, at least in a positive manner. And I hope the Jazz are able to pull it away, but not super concerned just based on everything that's going on. I'm more concerned about the injuries than I am concerned about the loss. So thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Please follow wherever you're at. Give the video a like, and reach out to us in the comments. We'd love to continue the conversation. So thanks again, and go Jazz.